The Democrat debate last night took place basically in an empty room between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. I'm sure the ratings were abysmal. Nobody wants to watch a Democratic debate in the middle of this. Watch two octogenarians going at it, clubbing each other with their walkers.
It was really boring. And, you know, those guys have like 70 or 90 or 120 years on me. So kudos to them for staying awake when I barely could.
Suffice it to say, it is not a great thing that all of the candidates for president of the United States are in the coronavirus's sweet spot. Okay, Joe Biden is old with underlying health conditions. Bernie Sanders is old with underlying health conditions. Donald Trump is old with underlying health conditions. None of this is a recipe for greatness here. The Democratic debate last night began with elbow bumping and coughing, which is always a great sign to America. Here are the two Democratic candidates last night.
Do they keep the social isolation thing? There we go.
There we go. All right.
Was that an elbow thrown at the jaw of Bernie Sanders by Joe Biden?
What do you say to the American people who are confronting this new reality?
First of all, my heart goes out to those who have already lost someone or those who are suffering from the virus.
Okay, so that's always good news. Joe Biden was coughing a fair bit last night.
Sorry, I got a little lump in my throat. Let me just cough on my hand, cough on my other hand. Hey, Jake Tapper, do you want a shoulder massage, or do you want to like nuzzle or kiss or anyway? I don't know. We got to take coronavirus seriously. Pretty hilarious way to start off. Kind of a cheap shot. People are doing this. People are still shaking hands. People are still coughing. But anyway, not a great look for Joe Biden. Biden was then asked how he would address the Wuhan virus. And his answer did not instill confidence because he confused every major public health crisis of the last decade.
So we should already be sitting down and planning where we're going to put these temporary hospitals. And we can do that. We did that. We've been through this before with the coronavirus. We've been through this before. We've been through this before with dealing with the viruses that the N1H15, as well as what happened in Africa. We provided these hospitals dealing with these great pandemics, and we were able to do it quickly, and people would have a place to go.
How is this guy supposed to beat Trump? The left's argument against Trump is that he doesn't know anything and he's not specific and he talks too loosely and he's too general and he's ignorant. And Joe Biden is all of that turned up to 11.
Honestly, Bernie Sanders has no more opportunity to win in this race. They're canceling primaries as we speak, by the way. So it's not even as though Bernie has maybe Bernie gets lucky and you know, Biden retires because he's obviously not fully functional, but that is highly unlikely at this point. Suffice it to say, it is not a great thing that all of the candidates for president of the United States are in the coronavirus's sweet spot. Okay, Joe Biden is old with underlying health conditions. Bernie Sanders is old with underlying health conditions. Donald Trump is old with underlying health conditions. None of this is a recipe for greatness.
Let's take a look at some of this. Biden had his best moment, actually, when he went after Bernie with his socialist healthcare ideas. Here is just a clip of that.
What's wrong with this hearing aid?
Yeah, what's wrong?
I can't hear with it.
Oh, no wonder. It's too far away.
All right, that was the actual Statler and Waldorf. Here are the Statler and Waldorf who are running for president. This is cut number 5.
Bottom line here is in terms of Medicare for all, despite what the vice president is saying, what the experts tell us is that one of the reasons that we are unprepared and have been unprepared is we don't have a system. We got thousands of private insurance plans. That is not a system that is prepared to provide health care to all people. In a good year, without the epidemic, we're losing up to 60,000 people who die every year because they don't get to a doctor on time. And clearly this crisis is only making a bad situation worse.
That has nothing to do when you're in a national crisis. The national crisis says we're responding. It's all free. You don't have to pay for a thing. That has nothing to do with whether or not you have an insurance policy. This is a crisis. We're at war with the virus. We're at war with the virus. It has nothing to do with copays or anything. We just passed a law saying that you do not have to pay for any of this, period.
So that's another reason we need communism.
That was Biden's best moment, because what he was saying was, no, let's let this crisis go to waste. Let's not use the crisis to stick us with these terrible systems. I mean, look at Europe. The reason Europe is having the problems that they're having is because they have all these national healthcare things that have left them with fewer devices, fewer tools to work with. It's under capitalism that you have this abundance. And the same way you come to America and you get a million versions of candy, and everybody goes, oh, that's just too luxurious here. The same way you get a million versions of devices and people building devices and building medications because they're spurred on by capitalism.
I will say I like that format. Having two people talk to each other and without the brain damaged hyenas in the audience making all the noise, and without the moderator cutting in every 12 seconds, but just having them in a room, no audience, just talking and arguing and debating, actually debating. That was the crazy thing about the debate last night. There was actually a little bit of real debating, which we very rarely see in a debate. So I like that. As far as the substance of it, it was what you would expect. I guess the pundits are saying that Biden won because he escaped without injury. He escaped without injury because he only made about 5 embarrassing mistakes rather than his normal 27. And so because of that, it's essentially a huge victory for him. One of the mistakes was when he, and Bernie did this also, they both kept forgetting which disease is in the news. So they went through SARS, swine flu, Ebola. Couldn't remember. I mean, if you've been living in a cave for the past few weeks and you turned on this debate, you would be really freaking out right now, because you would think that there's a SARS, swine flu, coronavirus, and Ebola epidemic happening all at the same time. I was kind of expecting by the end of it, they would be promising to make sure that we finally come up with a vaccine to defeat this polio epidemic once and for all. I thought that's where this was going, but didn't quite get there. Bernie was Bernie. He had a few great lines, such as when he said, "I've got Ebola in my head." That was a direct quote from Bernie Sanders. "I've got Ebola in my head." And at another point, he starts bragging about all the soap he uses. Says, "I use lots of soap." Both are real quotes that he uttered. But I think his best was this.
Have you been on the floor of the Senate? You were in the Senate for a few years.
Yeah.
Time and time again, talking about the necessity, with pride, about cutting Social Security, cutting Medicare, cutting veterans programs.
No.
You never said that.
No.
All right. America, go to the website right now. Go to the YouTube right now.
This guy, yeah, I'm telling you, I can tell why the youths love him. He very in touch with the youth of today. He just understands. Later on in the debate, he said that he stays in touch with America's youth by listening to his Christina Aguilera CD on his Walkman while he's rollerblading. Super relevant stuff.
Neither Bernie nor Biden, by the way, looked like they were fully functional mentally. And they're each making the kinds of mistakes you make when you're 80 years old. I mean, that's not because they're dumb or anything, but that's just the way that it works. With all that said, the politicization here is not going to stop. The Trump Surgeon General, he told reporters yesterday, guys, like, for the moment, can we cut it with like the retrospective criticism? Like, just for a moment. You can always do this later. Like, just wait 2 weeks.